I'm Connor Thompson, and I'm here today to talk to you about the booming audio industry. As many of you know, speakers are everywhere. You probably have one in your pocket, you're obviously listening to one right now, and I'm going to talk to you about the history and everything else that involves audio. The famous Alexander Graham Bell won the first patent for the telephone in 1876, and as we all know, every phone has a speaker in it, thereby forever cementing a need for speakers through the need for communication. By 1900, Bell had nearly 600,000 people in his telephone system. In 2016, over 1.5 billion cell phones are sold, each one with at least one speaker in it. As a few early audio examples, here's a 1921 Columbia Grafanola wind-up gramophone, which cost around $85 at its time, which, adjusted for inflation, is about $1,200 today. And then here's an RCA Electric Radiola, which is one of the first speaker and amp combinations, which cost around $495, which is about $7,000 today. In 1925, the first modern loudspeaker was patented utilizing a coil moving due to a fluctuating magnetic field inside of a stationary magnet. This speaker sold for $250 and forever changed the audio industry. As a matter of fact, it changed it so much that nearly all speakers made to this day still use the same principle. 1930. The Galvin brothers released the Model A Deluxe, arguably the first popular car radio, in helping to start what is today a multi-billion-dollar industry. 1964. Philips introduces the cassette player, becoming standard in cars and allowing teens everywhere to jam. 1982, Sony releases the CD player, and the rest is history. Since 1999, nearly 9 billion CDs have been shipped in the US alone. But enough about the history. Let's find out what kind of goods it is. Well, it's both. It's a consumption good when you buy a Samsung surround sound or Kicker subwoofers, or if you spend a whole bunch of money on Apple AirPods. But it's also a capital good when BMW uses Harman Kardon speakers in its vehicles, or Apple buys speakers from Pegatron for iPhones. Audio has many different kinds of final goods, and some of these may also be intermediate goods when they're used in mass production manufacturing. But let's look at a few final goods here. We have a head unit in a car, some full range speakers, tweeters, mid-bass drivers, mid-range drivers, subwoofers, all different classes of amplifiers, equalizers, batteries, wires, the list goes on and on. Just like when we looked at the final goods, some of these intermediate goods will often be sold to consumers as final goods, but here's a few of the common intermediate goods. You've got capacitors, MOSFETs, thermal grease, heat sinks, solder, circuit boards, ferrite, neodymium metal, baskets, voice coils, tinsel leads, spiders, cones, dust caps, terminals. That's just a few of the examples. And behind those, you have a picture of a subwoofer. It's broken down, showing you all the parts inside of it and everything. So what must be given up for new opportunities? As Carl Kennedy, the VP of JL Audio says, it's more important to generally release a new product that creates additional business rather than creating exchange dollars, such as buying one amp for another amp. This new product becomes most challenging when we land it at a price point that is close to another product that we already carry. Companies such as JL Audio know that consumers want to stay on the forefront of technology and are constantly striving to improve, knowing it may even lift the sales of some other less expensive amplifiers with the gained reputation. Since the 90s, audio equipment has only gotten cheaper. However, with quality comes price, and many brands may still be priced well above the average price per watt, and many may also be priced below it. Some companies, such as Macintosh, handcraft their amps, and they also charge for it, charging as much as $5,000 for a 150 watt amp. Moving down the list, we see some less expensive, albeit still great amps, such as the Focal FDS 1.350 with 350 watts for $350, so about $1 a watt. Going a little bit down the list, we see some still reputable but not really as nice amps, such as the AudioPipe APCL. And then if you go even below that, you really just have the poor brands. They're really not all that great, such as the Boss, Pile, and Autotech. And here in the middle of the screen, you can see the average price per watt for amplifiers starting from the 90s to about today. In 1991, the average amp cost about $4 a watt to buy, and in 2019, it is now down to about 20 cents per watt. With money to be made from the mining of copper for wire to the sales of amplifiers, audio is a multi-billion dollar industry. So let's look at a few of the things that are involved in it. When our government gets involved, you know that they are going to spend a lot of money. Classified under Product Code 5965 is some of the audio equipment ordered by the government. During the 2008 year alone, there are thousands of contracts, many of them issued from the Department of Defense. With just these 7 contracts, they add up to about $400 million spent annually. The LRAD, or Long Range Acoustic Device, is a military and police speaker capable of playing from 1000 to 5000 kilohertz out to 5500 meters. The LRAD is even capable of releasing a 162 decibel tone, nearly 4 times louder than a jet engine. For scale, here's me sitting in a car that's about 150 decibels. So let's look at a large and a small scale industry in car audio. Although large-scale operations such as Bose are generally the companies on the forefront of innovation, small-scale operations such as Sundown Audio may also provide many never-before-seen products to the market. Looking at Bose, they have about 8,000 employees, 2 massive manufacturing plants, one in Framingham, Massachusetts, one in Mexico, 190 plus storefronts worldwide, as well as being sold in thousands of department stores, making annual sales about $4 billion. Taking a look at Sundown, they have about 15 employees, 1 single warehouse, about 350 dealers which sell their equipment, with annual sales at about $5 million. And this has been a quick look into the gigantic industry that we call audio.